This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meowmix, a Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And on today's show, we're going to take a look at the potential next QB1 for the Carolina Panthers. And we will go over, I guess we'll check out the power rankings, and then we will preview the Seattle Seahawks visiting the Carolina Panthers at the end of the podcast. But we thought it would be fun today to fantasize isn't the right word.
Just kind of predict possible trade scenarios, what we could get, and if they do trade Cam, like Ian Rappaport said earlier or reported, like who would be the future franchise quarterback or just quarterback in the next year?
Yeah, if you didn't listen to our last podcast, and honestly, I don't blame you because we got beat by the Falcons, and who wants to listen to that? Still, you should at least download it. But Ian Rappaport did report that the Panthers are looking at trading Cam Newton, or at least looking into it, which they should, obviously. Mm-hmm. Why not put it out there and see what kind of offers you might get? Real quick, I think there was an article on Bleacher Report that gave a few possibilities, and maybe none of these teams might be where Cam goes if he is traded, but the compensation, I think, is what we're most interested in. Jerry, what are they looking at in terms of compensation for Cam?
Well, I was kind of shocked and kind of glad what I was seeing. Here's the first one they list is the Los Angeles Chargers. They said a first-round pick next year, so 2020, and a fourth round in 2021.
Okay.
They say the Buccaneers. I don't even want to mention this one because I can't imagine anybody trading within the same division a possible franchise quarterback like that. But they said a first round and a fifth round. I don't.
I can imagine it if the Bucs really want him. I don't think it would be for a first round and a fifth round. I think they'd have to pony up maybe a first and a second or something like that. But wouldn't the Panthers do that if you were getting that type of draft capital? Why wouldn't they? If you're not going to play the guy and that's your best offer, why wouldn't you take that?
That would be difficult because then if he lights it up and he like spanks you, then your whole front office looks like an idiot.
But your front office is going to look like an idiot anyway if he goes out and lights it up.
I personally think
regardless of where he goes.
I think you tried to trade it to the AFC, maybe the NFC, but like not in the same division. That's just the way I see.
My opinion on that is if you don't think he's good enough to play for your team, then get as much as you can out of him, regardless of where he's going. Because, I mean, what's the best case scenario? He plays another 3 years before he kind of starts breaking down for real. I mean, the guy's had a lot of hits. I don't know. If it can help you move up in the draft, then do it.
Now, here's an interesting one. Cincinnati Bengals. They don't offer the first-round pick. They offer their second-round pick, their fourth-round pick, in the year after third-round pick. So you're looking at...
That makes sense.
They're
not going to trade the number one overall pick.
I know, but...
I don't like that trade. I think you'd at least need to get a first-rounder. So if you're doing that, then you'd get Cincy's second-round pick this year. What was it, fourth-round pick?
A fourth-round pick. And
then maybe their first-round pick next year or something. That's what I would go for.
Yeah. I agree. If we could get their next year's first, I would be willing to do it. But just this second and a fourth. I know it's the first, second, but still, that's tough. Now, this one says Denver Broncos. But Drew Lock has been lighting it up, so I don't predict it. But they say a second-round pick this year, a third-round pick, and a 2021 second-round pick.
That's good compensation. I do agree, though. I don't think the Broncos are in the market at this point. I think they're pleasantly surprised by Drew Lock.
Yeah, I am too. I think they're going to... They spent a second-round pick on him last year. He's looking good. I don't see why they would jump ship so quickly.
Yeah.
Another one I was kind of surprised with, but I can kind of see it too. Indianapolis Colts.
Is Jacoby Brissett a free agent after this year?
No, they
I don't
signed.
think he is.
They signed him to a 2-year extension in the offseason.
That's right.
Like a week after
And
Andrew Luck.
it's reasonable money.
Yeah, it's I think like 14 million a year.
Okay.
But
I
they
guess that's possible. I don't see that unless they trade him too.
well, they said a first-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick next year. Yeah, but they would be picking probably in the 20s.
Now, what if they traded a first-round pick and Jacoby Brissett for Cam Newton?
I'd do it.
Is that interesting? That's more interesting to me.
That's definitely more interesting, and I'd do it.
What if it was like a third-round pick and Jacoby Brissett?
No.
What about a second-round pick and a Jacoby Brissett?
I don't think I like Jacoby Brissett, but I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's a quarterback around the 15, 16 of the league. And I don't know if that's what I would
an
want.
Andy Dalton type in terms of just average.
Pretty much, yeah. Maybe a little bit better than Andy Dalton, but yeah, the Dalton scale.
Yeah.
And
I'm surprised that Chicago wasn't on that list.
yeah, a lot of people have him going to Chicago, and I don't see it. I think they still spent so much on Trubisky that they're gonna still have to ride with him until a new coaching staff comes in.
I don't know. I mean, they benched him this year already, at least for a couple of games. So, any other teams that kind of jump out at you that might be? I'm surprised the Colts were on that list. I would not have put them on that list. I think the Raiders are a possibility, just because Gruden loves a new quarterback.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw
And
one.
they have a lot of draft capital.
I'm gonna throw one out there. This is purely speculation. New England Patriots. Because rumor is that Tom Brady is not happy there, and that he's probably gonna retire or move on somewhere else to prove he could do it somewhere else. I feel like they say that every year. So take that with a grain.
That'd be so interesting to see Cam Newton playing in that system.
And that's kind of what I want to throw it out there, because what would Belichick be able to do with Cam Newton?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'd hate it, I think it'd be really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Especially if Cam's healthy. I mean, if Cam's healthy, I want him here. But if he's not here, then I'd like him to be in a good place because I like Cam. Mm-hmm. And as much as I don't want him to tear us up in the playoffs or anything, that would be fun to watch. Okay, so let's have this discussion with the belief that Cam gets traded, and we get a middle of the first round first pick for him.
Okay. Well,
I think it's important to say that.
So we'll say 15th, just 15th or 16th.
Yeah, somewhere between 13 and 18, something like that. Just a mid-round pick.
Well, you think that we're already going to have, right now we're sitting at pick number 12, the last of the 5 and 8 teams, which I predict us to slowly go up because of the teams we face the next 3 weeks. I don't think we're winning any of them. So right now 12, I think we'll probably end up picking 8 or 9.
Yeah, I say anywhere between 6 and 10, I think, is realistic for us. I'm hoping towards the upper part of that range.
Yeah, you had to put my numbers in between yours and do a wider scale to be right. Is that what you were doing?
because I just have a feeling we're going to win one of these games to our detriment, because we did the same thing last year. I just have a feeling we're either going to beat the Colts or the Saints are going to be in a position to rest their players, and we're going to beat them.
Okay.
That's my only. I think if I had to guess, I would say we pick 9th.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Okay. So do you want to jump into the rookies or the possible free agents first?
Well, let's talk about it. I mean, do you think? I guess we probably really won't know until the new coach comes in, but most of the time, if you're picking in the top 10 and you have a new coach, you're going to be drafting a quarterback, especially if you don't have a quarterback on the roster.
Yeah, and especially once you look at the possible free agents, there's no one that stands out really that you want to bring in to be the cornerstone of a new franchise quarterback.
Well, let's talk. Let's run through those first then, because I think we're going to spend most time on the rookies. So I just want to hit a couple of the main free agent quarterbacks that are going to be available. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is probably going to be at the top of the free agent list for quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's on top of mine.
He is a similar-ish style to Cam, although he probably doesn't run that much anymore. But he showed in New Orleans that he can handle a team. And they've got a lot of talent on that team, but we've got a lot of talent on our skill position players as well. So I think Teddy would probably be at the top of almost everybody's list in terms of free agent quarterbacks. I don't know how much you're going to have to pay him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the big drawback to getting one of these top free agent quarterbacks is you got to pay them.
And you got to think, too, Drew Brees is a free agent, too. So the Saints have to pay one of them. I mean, obviously, Drew Brees, if he wants to come back, is going to get the nod. But
exactly, yep.
You never know. He might, if they win the Super Bowl, he may hang it up.
Right, and I didn't even really include Drew Brees. I'm not going to include Tom Brady, even though they technically are going to be unrestricted free agents. I just figure they're either going to go back to their team or they're going to retire.
Yeah. Another one that's probably going back to his team, Dak Prescott, I have as my number 2. Even though I'm not a big fan of his, I think he's the second best player that's possible free agent.
I would probably have him number 1 if I thought it was realistic, but I don't think it's realistic. So I actually didn't have him on my list either. Another one that I think is realistic is Phillip Rivers. Mm-hmm. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and I could see. I could even see a swap where Cam goes there and Phillip Rivers comes here. If you're not drafting a quarterback, if the coach comes in, he says, "I don't like any of these quarterbacks that are left at the 9th pick, but we need somebody to come in here and run this team for the next couple of years." I could see Phillip Rivers doing that. I could see.
He's having such an awful season, though. He is a detriment to that team.
Here's another one, though. Eli Manning.
Yeah, I have Eli here too. No.
Eli looked okay last night, but I think that would not be. Again, you'd be looking at a stopgap situation there. Another one that's interesting, though, is Ryan Tannehill.
I think Titans are going to back up the Brinks truck for him, and I think it's going to be a huge mistake.
I think you're probably right.
I think they're going to
I already saw that they were working on a contract extension for him.
I think they're going to make the playoffs. You know how I said about 15 to 16 for Jacoby? Mm-hmm. I think Tannehill's in that 20 range of starting quarterback.
I think Tannehill could get more than that, especially if he continues to play as well as he has the last month and a half.
But that's what he did in Miami. He looks good for a little while, and then he doesn't.
That's all you need to get a big contract.
No, I know that.
He's a young guy, and it's the promise. Really the only other one that I think if you really wanted to take a shot and take a chance would be Jameis. I wouldn't want to take that shot or that chance, but somebody's going to.
And we're talking about Jameis Winston because there's so many Jameses out there.
Right? Jameis Winston. I mean, Marcus Mariota is also going to be available. I don't think he's going to get a big deal at all. I don't think he should. Those are really, Colt McCoy, Case Keenum are out there, but they're not going to get big deals. They're backups. That's really it. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a lot for an NFL offseason.
You're right. And a lot of these will probably re-sign. Like I said, Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Brees will re-sign with New Orleans. Dak Prescott will most likely sign. Ryan Tannehill, like you said, already going to get working on a contract extension.
So realistically, you're looking at, an Eli Manning type or a Jameis Winston that you just roll the dice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's assuming Jameis Winston gets released, which isn't a sure thing. I think it's more likely than not, considering Bruce Arians wants to win. And
yeah, I think
Jameis
they're
isn't a
moving
winner.
on. He's an unrestricted free agent, like you said, not being released. But
Yeah.
I don't see them re-signing him, especially to probably the contract he wants. As a number 1 overall pick, he already got a lot of money, so he's probably looking for more. Yeah, don't see it.
So it sounds like we would both be okay with Teddy Bridgewater, but only... I mean, I don't want to pay Teddy Bridgewater $30 million a year.
Oh, no.
But if you could get Teddy for 22 to 25, I think he'll get more than that, but if you could, then I think that's worth it for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and what you just said is key. 3 to 4 years, a prove-it deal that, 2 years from now, if you're starting, we've made the playoffs, you're going to get an extension that's going to put you in the upper echelon of quarterbacks.
And now I would also want to say that, and I don't know how realistic this would be, but I would almost want to hold off on signing a quarterback until the draft. Because if some of these guys that we're going to talk about here fall a few spots, then I would rather have probably 3 guys in this draft than Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay, well, let's talk about them.
Okay.
So I pulled up CBS's prospect ranking for quarterbacks. I'm kind of shocked. This was updated fairly recently. It still has Tua. I can't say his last name. Tagovailoa?
Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
Tagovailoa.
I'm just going to call him Tua from Alabama.
Yeah,
They still
that's
have
fine.
him
Everybody knows
as
who
a
you're talking about.
top quarterback. That fifth overall for them. And
I would agree with that.
And Joe Burrow is 6.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with Tua being number 1. He would be at the top of my list by far. Tua is, now for those of you that don't know, Tua is the quarterback of Alabama, and he got hurt a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like, a dislocated hip, I think, that did require surgery, but his prognosis is he'll make a full recovery and could actually resume football activities in a couple of months. So even before the draft, he could be resuming football activities, which I think means that this fall that some people project Tua to have is not going to happen. I don't see him falling out of the top 5 at all.
And this is the player that Miami was tanking for. That it was the front office basically came out and said, we want this guy. And now it's in question. So will he fall past them? That's the question.
Here's the reason. In 2019, before he got hurt, he completed 71% of his passes for 2,840 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Oh. He also runs the ball pretty well. So this is the guy. I mean, this could be... He's looked at as a generational talent before he got hurt. Now, this injury is rare in terms of football injuries. So I think people are a little scared of how his rehab is going to go and whether or not he truly will gain that mobility back. But I think, if he does and he happens to fall to the Panthers pick, they would be stupid not to take a chance, I think.
I agree. I want to talk besides his hip injury. He is only listed as 6'1". So he's probably on the little bit shorter side for a starting quarterback. And I said listed, so he's probably more like 6 foot, if not a little bit shorter.
Right.
And he's a
Russell Wilson size, probably.
Yeah, and he does move around a lot in that pocket and stuff. And with that hip injury, you don't know, like you said, his mobility, if that will be gone.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the risk, right? But with the way the contract structure is now, you're not paying rookie quarterbacks $60 million anymore. You're paying them, $30 million.
Now, I like Tua too, but like I said, we would probably have to jump Miami because Cincinnati is going to be picking one. They're going to be taking a quarterback, most likely Joe Burrow.
Maybe.
I've
seen some mocks that have Chase Young, the Ohio State defensive lineman, as the can't miss by far top prospect in this draft. If you don't take him, you're making a huge mistake. And I've seen some mocks that have Chase Young going. Now, if Cincinnati likes a quarterback such as like Jake Fromm, who we'll talk about in a minute, and could get him lower in the draft, then they could easily take Chase Young number 1 and take themselves out of the running for a quarterback in the top 10.
And if that happens, the Panthers are really lucky because then it hits the Giants, who just drafted Daniel Jones, the Redskins, who just drafted Dwayne Haskins, then Miami, like I said, they're definitely in the search for a quarterback. Detroit Lions, they seem still happy with Matt Stafford, unless they have a new quarterback or a coach who wants to go in a different direction. Arizona just drafted Murray. Jacksonville with Minshew Mania going on. Atlanta, Matt Ryan. I mean, he's still good. I hate him, but he's still so good. The Jets, Sam Darnold. And then you have to go to 10 at Los Angeles Chargers. And again, at this point, we may be jumping them.
Yeah, honestly, I would say if Cincinnati does not take a quarterback, the Panthers need to be making calls and trying to trade up to 2 or 3. I mean, 3 realistically. Try to trade up to 3. Or, I mean, maybe even try to trade up to 5. Because, you figure Miami is either going to take Tua or Burrow. And we'll talk about Burrow in a minute. And I'd be fine with either or the other one, honestly.
Yeah, I would be too.
Because you might say, well, do they even really need to jump up if all these other teams are not going to be drafting quarterbacks? Well, all these other teams are going to be looking to draft down or trade down because they're not taking quarterbacks. So somebody else is going to jump up.
And this draft, I think there's a few can't misses. I'd say like 2 or 3, and after that, it's a decent draft.
2. Yeah, I think 2 might. Well, if you say Tua is healthy, then I think 2.
No, I meant can't miss players overall. You said Chase Young.
Oh,
I think
players
the
overall.
Alabama receiver Judy.
Yeah, Jerry Judy.
Yeah, Jerry Judy. He's a can't miss guy too.
Yep, I agree. I'm gonna assume Joe Burrow is the next guy on your list.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have Joe Burrow 1 and 2 just because of the injury.
Well, I'm saying on your CBS list.
Yeah, my CBS list, it has Joe Burrow from LSU. He's a senior. He transferred from Ohio State, and he has lit it up this year. Probably going to win the Heisman. I've watched him play a few games because LSU's on TV. He looks good. I don't know how he transferred from Ohio State, why they weren't playing him, but...
Yeah, he's incredible. 78% of his passes for 4,300 yards, 44 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And he can also run a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's got almost 300 rushing yards and three rushing touchdowns. So he's 6'4", 216. I mean, he could probably bulk up a little bit, but he's NFL size. And I think he's probably the first quarterback taken unless Miami just can't get Tua out of their mind.
Yeah, I agree. I think Joe Burrow is a really good piece. My only worry is he just came on in his senior year. He had to transfer. He wasn't beating other players out. Kind of makes you a little worried there, but at the same time, did something click this year with his new coaching staff in LSU, which is not known for being able to develop quarterbacks, but he seems to develop nicely there.
Yeah, if we could get Burrow, then I would be ecstatic.
Yeah, I would be too. I don't see him falling to us, or
I don't think it happens.
I think he's going number 1, like I said earlier. Number 3 is a little surprise to me. Jacob Eason from Washington.
See, I'm looking at a list from WalterFootball.com, and they've got Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert is the next one. CBS has Jacob Eason 22 overall ranked, while Justin Herbert 31 overall ranked. Both first-round talents per ranking. So which one do you want to go with first?
Well, let's talk about Eason, I guess, since he's on your list. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he's 6'6", 227. He's another transfer. He was down there. He was projected to have the starting job in Georgia, and then he got injured. when he got injured, Jake Fromm, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, we keep saying that.
Yeah.
He took over, and they played really well. Went to the national title game as a true freshman with Jake Fromm, and Jacob Eason had to transfer out because he wasn't going to get that job back.
Yeah, Jacob Eason reminds me a little bit of Pat Mahomes when he was coming out in terms of his still a little bit raw. He might benefit from sitting a year like Mahomes did, but ridiculously powerful arm. He's pretty accurate, 64% of your passes. You like to see a little more than that in college, but 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I sort of liken him to Mahomes a little bit. So obviously, if he turns out to be Mahomes, that's a great pick. I have him listed as 5 actually on this list, and Fromm ahead of him actually. But let's talk about Herbert, because I think. By the way, Eason, Herbert, maybe, and Fromm all probably the most likely if the Panthers decide to make a pick and stay in their spot.
Yep.
Those are probably the guys that'll be there. So Justin Herbert is from Oregon. He's about the same size as Eason. He's 6'6", 225.
I have 237, so a little bit bigger.
So, yeah, they might have weighed him for CBS after that Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know. But yeah. Herbert's had a really good season. 68% of his passes for about 3,100 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So that's great. He could also run the ball, but they haven't had him run a lot this season. So he actually runs a 4.7 40, which is a little slower than Cam, but faster than a lot of quarterbacks out there. But I think that this would be a really good pick for us if we could get him in the 10 to 12 range.
Okay. Now, here's the thing with Justin Herbert I have an issue with. They expected him to light it up this year. I know his stats are good. But from all the things I'm reading from the scouts, again, I don't get to see all this, but they're saying he's didn't improve this year. He actually regressed from last year. And the one game I watched with him was against Arizona State. That was their loss this year, and he looked lost out there. I don't know if it was what Herm Edwards, the coach of Arizona State, was doing to him, but he was missing throws. I'm not saying I wouldn't be ecstatic to get him. I'm just saying I do have my reservations about him. And
So I don't.
And
Go ahead.
Before this year started, they had Tua as the number 1 quarterback and Herbert as the number 2, and they're both neck and neck saying, hey, Herbert might go before him. But then this year, the way he's played, he's dropped. So it makes me a little nervous just drafting him.
I'm not sure because if you're just looking at his stats, in 2018, he completed 59% of his passes for 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. This year is 68% of his passes, 3,100 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So, stats-wise, he's looked better. I haven't watched a lot of Oregon football either. We're East Coast guys, and they don't really show Oregon out here that much unless they're playing an SEC team or something.
Or it's like 10 o'clock at night and,
Yeah. Yeah. Stats-wise, he's looked good, and Oregon has been a pretty good team this year. So, I don't know. I haven't seen the negative stuff that you have, but I think I'd be happy with giving Herbert a shot here, especially if we can get him and not have to give up draft capital to get him. Let's talk about I think the last guy that we'll maybe go into a lot of detail on, Jake Fromm, who isn't a guarantee to even come out.
No. And honestly, if I was his family and agent, I would tell him to go back.
He hasn't had a great year. He's had a good year stats-wise, funnily enough, Georgia, had they won against LSU, would have been in the playoff, and, they would have only lost 1 game. But in terms of his statistics, he has dropped a bit. Now, he's 6'2", 220, so he's, probably average quarterback height. This year, he's 62% of his passes, 2,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Last year, he was a little better than that. 67% of his passes, 2,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So I've heard, they've had a lot of injuries at Georgia this year in terms of their offensive line and some of their skill position guys. I mean, if you just watch that game at LSU, that Georgia was dropping like flies, the players out there. So I think a lot of his regression comes from the fact that he's had less talent around him. I think Jake Fromm is going to be a good NFL quarterback. But I think you might, if he comes out this year, I mean, he's going to be bottom of the first round, middle of the second round, somewhere in that range. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. What do you think?
I like Jake Fromm. My problem is he's, again, not taking a step forward. He went to the national title game as a true freshman. Last year he had a good season, and this year it's been good. I'm not going to knock him, but it hasn't been that great. If you ever go to Netflix, go to a show called QB1. The first season of that, Jake Fromm as a high school freshman, they followed him around his senior year. This guy is a leader. I really like him, but I would love to see a little bit more. I don't know if in the future, he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, but I think he's going to be a solid NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's going to break that upper echelon of the top 5 premier quarterbacks, but back to that, he could be a solid starter for multiple years.
I mean, he kind of reminds me of, I don't want to say Tom Brady, but I think his skill set in terms of he doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but he can throw it downfield. He's accurate. He's not extremely mobile, but he is a little mobile. His height and everything is right around Tom Brady. I think he's going to be the type of guy that's, if he's in the right system, he could be a superstar. And if he's in the wrong system, he's just going to be average.
And I agree with that. I think part of the problem with his play at Georgia not getting better is the type of play they play. They like to run the ball and play defense, which is a great formula to win games. But
that's SEC football.
But he beat out Justin Fields last year for the starting job. They brought in the number 1 quarterback of high school to compete for that starting job for him. And he beat him out, just like he did Jacob Eason. Justin Fields then transfers to Ohio State and lights it up. He is now a Heisman finalist this year. So that's where I'm kind of like, it could be the system that Jake Fromm is just doing as much as they're asking for him.
I do think that has a lot to do with it. Because, the guy's got talent.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Was there anybody else you really wanted to touch on?
I do, because I see this guy going in the first round on some mock drafts, and
Can I guess who it is?
Yeah. Is
it Jordan Love?
No.
Okay, I've actually seen him go in the first round. So who's your other guy?
Jalen Hurts. I do not want him here. I do not think he's a good enough thrower to be next year. I do not think he's going to be a starting quarterback because of his throwing ability. Now, if you want to draft him in the late second, third round as a project, that's one thing. But I don't think he's not going to be Lamar Jackson.
Where is he ranked on that CBS list?
On CBS, he is ranked 8th.
So on this WalterFootball.com list, they have Jalen Hurts ranked 17th and projected to go in the 5th or 7th round.
I feel like that was an old prediction.
It was updated 12/5/19. Now, Hurts has completed 72% of his passes for 3,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions for Oklahoma, who was they're in the playoff.
He's a Heisman finalist, too. Another one.
I don't understand why they would say that he's going that late, but I've seen, some people are even saying, like, this list says some feel Hurts should move to fullback for the NFL.
First of all, the fullback position is dead.
Walter Football is like a well-respected website for football. I'm shocked, but no, I think Hurts is a project.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think if we could get him like in the 4th round, maybe I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, but we're looking for a starting quarterback. I don't think we're going to be looking in the 4th round, which he may surprise us and be something better, but I don't think he's going to be that. Kyler Murray has not looked great this year. Baker hasn't looked great. It may be Lincoln Riley's system. I think he could coach up a good quarterback, and we'll discuss that when we talk about head coaching options.
Yep. Yeah, he's on the list. So if you had to, all right. So let's do this. Who do you want, and who do you actually think is going to be our quarterback in 2020?
Okay, who do I want? I'll take Tua, even though I would be worried about you may have to sit him all of next year just to make sure that
the upside is just too high. Yeah, I agree.
Joe Burrow, I've been really impressed with when I watched him play. And I'm going to go with Justin Herbert, even though I knocked him.
You think that's who we're going to end up with?
No. That's who I would like. Sorry.
Okay. So, depending on where we could get Justin Herbert.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if we're picking 12 and we pick Herbert, I am not upset with that.
Okay. And who do you think it's going to be?
I think Cam. I still think Cam is going to be starting here next year.
Okay. Well, this whole conversation was for nothing then.
Oh, I mean,
so, good job. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
This
You've wasted everyone's time.
No, well, this is what I think. Obviously, this whole show is about, entertainment / thinking about the future. But I think that's what's really going to happen. I think the new coach is going to come in. They're going to look at Cam and be like, I want to at least see what he has before we ship him off. And I think he's going to start again next year.
Yeah. I think Tua is obviously who I would want as well. The injury doesn't scare me off from him at all. I think he just, and even if it didn't work out, I think the potential for him is so high. I would love to take him. I think it's probably going to be Justin Herbert. I think that's probably where I don't foresee Hurney trading up because he really doesn't do that often. In fact, I could even see him trading down and taking...
If Hurney is here.
I think he will be. And I could actually see him trading down into, the latter half of the first round and taking a Jake Fromm or, maybe Herbert falls or this Jordan Love kid that I see at the end of the first round. I haven't taken too much of a look on him, but maybe we don't even take a quarterback in the first round. We roll with Kyle Allen for a year.
And that was my other thought. Next year, there's Justin Fields is going to be out there. Trevor Lawrence. There's some good quarterbacks coming out next year too. I mean, again, Jacob Eason may need to go back. Jake Fromm might go back. Those guys could be there and really mature, and they could, maybe they go, hey, let's give Will Grier a chance, see what he has. I think that,
Yeah, it feels like bringing in a new coach, you're going to draft a quarterback. I mean, that it just feels like that is what happens, especially if we're drafting, middle towards the end of the first round. I mean, those guys are going to be there. So, I mean, my hope is that Tua falls and people are scared of it. Maybe his rehab doesn't go great the first or the month leading up to the draft and people are scared. That would be my hope. But I don't know that that's realistic.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. That was a fun discussion of 40 minutes almost.
Jeez.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll quickly preview the Seahawks versus Panthers.
Hi, my name is Melissa and I'm the host of The Haunted Ride, a paranormal and spiritual podcast. Every week I share some of my own personal stories and a few of yours as well. We talk about things from spirits to ghosts, demons, angels, cryptids, or any experience that just seems a little too weird and you honestly can't call it normal. What if you communicated with a ghost? You feel other people's emotions? Maybe you're questioning if you're an empath, medium, or could even be a psychic. Well, we cover that too. So join me every Monday on your favorite podcast player and tune in as we talk about all the great and sometimes scary things that happen through this haunted journey we call life. Because ghosts are out there, and if you're not careful, they will get you.
And we're back. And now we're going to go ahead and look at the Panthers game against Seattle. Seattle Seahawks are 10-3 coming to Carolina, who is 5-8. The Panthers are 5.5-point underdogs in this game at home. So with that 3-point edge at home, they're really on a neutral field 8.5-point underdogs. Seattle is currently sitting in the first wild card spot for the playoffs. They still have a chance at their own NFC West title. They're one game out from them, and I believe they play them one more time. So they're definitely going to the playoffs. They're a really good team.
Yeah, they're a great team. They actually play the 49ers week 17. So that could be for the division. That could be for a bye.
Yeah.
I mean, almost certainly will be for a bye if they're playing for the division. So, they play the Panthers, then they play the Cardinals. So you almost figure let's be honest, that's probably 2 wins. Mm-hmm. And then going into the 49ers.
That's going to be such a raucous crowd and good game.
Yeah, and the Niners play the Falcons and the Rams. So they could potentially lose against the Rams and then the Seahawks. And, I hope they flex that game.
Yeah, I do too.
I'd love to watch that
Now,
game.
looking at Seattle, they're 5th in total offense. Russell Wilson is probably going to win the MVP.
Yeah, I would say he's leading the pack.
They're 11th in total offense, or 11th in passing, 243 yards per game. They have allowed 40 sacks this season, so that's a good number. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
And they're surprisingly 3rd in rushing. I was not expecting that, averaging 140 yards per game. So expect 240 yards this week against Carolina.
Oh my God.
If you have a running back for the Seattle Seahawks, start them this week in fantasy. Speaking of running backs, Chris Carson having a heck of a year. They drafted Rashad Penny last year in the first round, and Chris Carson has kept him on the bench. He is averaging 4.3 yards per carry, already has 1,000 yards for the season, 1,057. He only has 5 touchdowns, but he's been really solid there for them.
Yeah, and then Rashad Penny is their other running back, and he's looked really good too.
Yeah, he's more the home run hitter right now. He only has 65 attempts on the season. Kind of surprised that low.
Yeah.
For receiving, Tyler Lockett's their number 1, who has 67 receptions for 874 yards. And the rookie, I thought this guy was going to be such a bust. I thought he was just going to be one of those combine studs that didn't produce in college and didn't produce in the pros. Well, I was wrong. He has 50 receptions, 783 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That is a strong rookie season.
Yeah, he's up there in the rookie of the year. I think probably Jacobs from Oakland gets that, but he's been playing really well, and he's coming on even better as the year goes on. So, he was kind of surprising to me too. He fell in the draft a bit.
Yeah,
people were expecting him to go a lot higher than he went.
Yeah, I think once people watched the tape that he wasn't that good at Ole Miss, I think he dropped a little bit, but he's looking great now. For the Panthers, I don't see how we stop them. Our run defense is so horrible and their run offense is so good. And then you have Russell Wilson being able to sling it back there. I think we could get some sacks in this game, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. But I don't think it's going to really cause much damage.
Well, here's the thing with the Seahawks is as good as they are, they play close games. I mean, if other than week 4 against Arizona, where they won by 17, they have not won a single game by more than one score all season long. Mm-hmm. And they've won 10 games. So they won by 1 point, 2 points, 1 point, 4 points, 7 points, 6 points, 3 points, 8 points, 7 points. So, I mean, these teams are staying in it.
Yeah.
And they actually have played a decent schedule. But, I expect the Panthers to somehow hang around in this game.
Well,
just because that's what Seattle does.
And this is where it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be on offense. Our defense is not that good against the run. And Seattle's defense is surprisingly not that good either. They rank 26 overall, 375 yards per game they're giving up. They're 29th against the pass, giving up 271 yards. They only have 23 sacks on the season. Jadeveon Clowney, he has not been spectacular there. Brian Burns has more sacks than him at this time of the season. And Brian Burns barely gets snaps.
Yeah, he barely plays. I think that the passing game is going to be able to put up yards in this game. I think DJ Moore is probably going to have a heck of a game. I think Kyle Allen will probably still throw 2 interceptions in this game, but he's going to have 350 yards. Yeah, I think the Panthers will score in this game. I just think the Seahawks are going to score more. So, I foresee this being a big Christian McCaffrey game as well. I think he could end up with 100 passing and 100 receiving yards in this game.
That would be awesome.
I'm sorry, 100 rushing and 100 receiving yards in this game, not passing.
Is that your bold prediction?
No, I don't think that's bold enough.
Wow.
I think he's just gonna have that type of game. I think they're actually really trying to get him to 1,000 receiving yards this year, and they should, because what else do you have to play for?
Well, they could give him the rushing record. He's 60 yards from first place right now. Let him tote the rock. Don't give him 10 carries.
What's better though, being the third guy in NFL history to have 1,000, or winning a random rushing title?
I want the rushing title. I don't know why. I just do. What about both, sir?
I don't know.
What about both?
Sure, I'd love to have both. That'd be great. I think this ends up being kind of a close game, but I do think the Seahawks win. My bold prediction is that we do see Will Grier in this game, and that he throws for more yards than Kyle Allen in the game.
I could see that too.
I think that actually happens.
Going back to your close game, I do not think this is going to be a close game. And that brings us to Beer Bet of the Week.
Presented by Blue Moon. For shitty people.
Not really brought by Blue Moon. But
that's an inside joke.
But we're keeping that in. The point spread's 5.5. You're going over, correct?
No, I'm going under.
Oh yeah, you're going under.
I think this is gonna be a close game. Yeah, I think this is like a 4 or 5 point win for the Seahawks. Somehow the Panthers hang around, but aren't able to get it done. Maybe another goal line stand where they can't score. But yeah, you think this is going to be a bigger win for the Seahawks?
I do. I think that this team has given up on the season. I think it's going to be another slaughter, kind of like last week, unfortunately.
Yeah. I could see it. I could see it both ways. I just think that, history this season has shown Seattle playing close games. So, but this could be. What else do they really have to play for other than pride? And do they care about Perry Fuel? Probably not.
No. And I listened to Steve Smith on the radio today on WFNZ. He brought up. He goes, when we had that season where it was John Fox's lame duck year, we knew he was getting fired. He's like
2-14.
Yeah, you were playing for tape. He said, as soon as the new coaching staff came in, they pulled you aside and was like, okay, I was looking at your tape last year towards the end of the season. You quit blocking. And he goes, that does play a part on you making a roster, especially the lower guys. So
Yeah.
But it looks like they gave up last week, so I don't know. So what is your score prediction?
So I think it's going to be a relatively high-scoring game. I think it's obviously I said it was going to be a Seahawks victory. I think it's going to be like 34-29, something like that. Just under that 5.5.
Yeah, I have Seattle winning 35-20.
Okay.
So a 15-point.
You added a field goal since last time we talked.
Yes, I did. Because they're allowing 24 points a game, and I was like, yeah, let's crank it up.
All right, I hear you. Do you have a bold prediction?
I do.
Okay.
This is going to shock a couple fans, but I think Ian Thomas is going to have 8 receptions, 125 yards.
I hope it happens. I'd love to see him come on strong towards the end of the year. I have not been an Ian Thomas believer, but if it happens, great.
Yeah, that's why I did it, because I know.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see it happening, but in fact, I don't think he's on the roster next year. But that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it.
I do too. Thank everybody for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at meowmixmailbag@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at meowmixpodcast. And keep pounding, guys.
Keep pounding. Yep. We'll be back on Monday morning, 12 a.m., as usual, to discuss what's honestly, hopefully, a Panthers loss.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we're rooting for draft position.
I'm really hoping you're right, where it's a close game where you feel a little bit of pride, but it's still loss, unlike last week.
I mean, I'd honestly just love to see Will Grier go out and throw the football around. I'd love to see Reggie Bonifant get in and get some run. I'd like to see some of these young guys do something. I'd like to see DJ Moore have a massive game. I'd like to see Ian Thomas have a massive game. Mm-hmm. I'd just like to see something to hope for next season.
Yeah, I think that's all we can really go for right now.
And on that note, keep pounding.